Hey, what's going on, guys? Kevin the Tech Ninja here, and today we're going to compare the OnePlus 10 Pro 5G to the Pixel 6 Pro. Now, the reason I'm doing this comparison is very simple. Both of these phones are flagship phones, and they are $899, which is cheaper than the competition. We're going to compare these phones head to head in a series of real-world examples and see which phone is better for you. If you like this type of content, hit that subscribe button down below. Ring that bell notification while you're down there to never miss another video that I make. Got a lot of great phone comparisons coming up, so be along for that journey. Now, when it comes to design, I think both of these phones are somewhat similar, but at the same time, they're different in the way they approach things. So both of these phones do have these curved edges, which I actually do like curved edges if they're done right. But the back of the phones, this is where things can look a little bit different. I do like the frosted look on the OnePlus compared to the glossy look on the Pixel 6 Pro. I think the glossy look, over time, just starts to look bad. You get tons of fingerprints and gets dusty, whereas this frosted look I think is just very timeless, and I think it looks better overall. Also, taking a look at the back, there's different camera styles. This is like a little band that reminds me of Bender, and you do have, it pretty much sticks out. And then we have this style right here, which is more of the traditional stove style. You have like different cooking eyes right here, but at the same time, it doesn't stick out as far. In my opinion, I think the OnePlus is a better looking phone, and I love right here, this sort of blends in nicely back into the phone. So this camera cluster is here, and it kind of blends back into the side of the phone. And I think that is like one of the coolest looking ways to sort of hide how bulky the camera cluster is, how it seamlessly blends back into the side of the phone. Speaking of cameras, both phones are using this kind of hole punch design. One is in the corner and one is in the middle. To me, I think it being in the middle just looks more symmetrical and it looks better for me. I don't really like it being in the corner too much. But once again, that is personal preference, but I just like it in the middle. Now, speaking of the glass, the Pixel 6 Pro has Gorilla Glass Victus on the front and back, whereas the OnePlus 10 Pro is Gorilla Glass Victus on the front and Gorilla Glass 5 on the back. That doesn't make a big difference in real-world comparison, but if they were to drop on the ground, the Pixel 6 Pro, in theory, should fare well better in that drop comparison. Now, in real world usage, it really doesn't matter too much, but if there was some type of drop and both of these phones drop, the Pixel 6 Pro should do better in a drop test compared to the OnePlus 10 Pro. But at the same time, beyond that, there's nothing else as far as the glass on the back, besides one being frosted and one being glossy. I do want to give OnePlus some love on the alert toggle slider. I still think this is a really cool feature, and it's something that I still use. You can toggle this little slider, and it's really convenient just to be able to do this. Just like if you're out somewhere and you say, you know what, I don't want my phone to ring, you just plop it over, or you can flick it up one more time, and then you can put your phone on silent mode. So depending on what you want to do, and depending on how you want to do it, you can easily just change the setting really fast. You don't have to go into settings. Even when the screen is off, you can go ahead and make that change right here, and it shows up on the always on display, which I think is really nice. One more thing to talk about when it comes to durability is that the T-Mobile variant of the OnePlus 10 Pro is IP68 verified, while the other versions of the OnePlus 10 Pro is not IP verified at all. This is the unlocked version, so if I did drop it in water, it's a good chance that it would not survive because it's not certified to do so. Whereas the Pixel 6 Pro, no matter where you purchase it, it's going to have that certification. It can withstand a dunk in the water, and it can be underwater for a little bit of time. Now, when looking at the front of the phone, you get almost similar size displays. It's 6.7 inches on the OnePlus 10 versus 6.71 inches on the Pixel 6 Pro. Now, both panels are curved, as I mentioned before. They're 120 Hertz and they're AMOLED, so there's nothing to complain about when it comes to quality. I have enjoyed both of these displays when using them, and as far as which one looks better, I really can't tell you. Like, they both look really good, and I have no complaints either way. I will say though, when I'm outside with both phones and doing some testing in like harsh sunlight, the OnePlus 10 Pro seems to get a little bit brighter. I'm not saying the Pixel is dim, but I think the OnePlus just gets brighter overall. So when I'm outside, I find this display to be much more visible. They're also both 120 Hertz displays, which is really cool to see, and they're both up to QHD resolution. Now, one thing I dig about OnePlus is that it has auto select resolution. So depending on what you're watching or doing on your phone, it will switch resolution for you. That is a great way to get the best possible video quality, but at the same time, conserve battery when you don't need that high resolution. I really like this feature, and I think this plays into battery life too, and we'll talk about battery life a little bit later in the video. Now let's talk about speakers. Both of these phones have stereo speakers. I want you guys to tell me which one sounds better. So if you were to ask me, I think it's a pretty even race on which one sounds the best. Now when it comes to day-to-day performance, I don't think either phone will give you anything to complain about. The OnePlus 10 Pro has Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, while Google has its own Tensor chip. The addition to the Tensor chip gives you a lot of custom features and things I've talked about in my full review, but basically it has a lot of hardware level optimization. But in all honesty, the OnePlus 10 Pro does it well too. There's optimization when it comes to gaming, especially how OnePlus gaming app can tweak the GPU and CPU performance on load. I also think the software experience on the OnePlus 10 Pro is better. With this Oxygen OS 12.1 skin, you can find things that makes the smartphone truly yours with changing to various visual elements being displayed. A simple example is the changing of the fingerprint scanner and unlock animation. The Pixel 6 Pro is not a bad phone either when it comes to software, but I do have to ding it because it seems like with software updates, new bugs are being introduced. I'd say the first 2 months of the phone were kind of rough. Things are getting kind of hashed out now, but I do have to ding the Pixel for that because it's still not refined and it doesn't feel as stable as a OnePlus, even though it's a newer phone. The Pixel 6 Pro does have hardware level security. So for example, if I come into here, I can do things where I can disable the camera and microphone. So when I go into an application that wants to access the camera, it does not let me do that because the camera is now blocked from being used. Also the microphone. So if you're worried if your phone is listening to you, you can disable the microphone right from here, which is a nice feature. Also the Tensor chip does give you a few more things that is really nice and a couple things that I think is very impressive and some things that I've actually utilized quite often. So for example, let's go into Twitter and once I hit the microphone, the dictation is really good. Like when I start speaking, it's going to start popping up as soon as I start saying words. And what I like about it is that it is very accurate and extremely fast. So being able to text when I'm driving just by using words, it's very simple. And another cool thing that it does, it adds punctuation too. So it added a period here and all those great things. Now, a lot of phones can do speech to text, but this speech to text, in my opinion, is the best I've ever used, and I'm so comfortable using it, I have no problems with it. Now, that is a hardware level thing, and this also works for Translate. If you have a person that speaks a foreign language, you guys can hold a conversation because it translates it into the proper language, and it does it offline too, so you don't need internet access to do that. Let's take a quick break to talk about today's sponsor, Dbrand. It's the best way to customize your phone, make it your own, and also, like on the Pixel 6 Pro, how the back is really glossy. You could throw one of these skins on the back of it to make it not glossy anymore, adds a little bit of texture and just makes your phone super unique. Anyways, you can customize up to hundreds of different variations and colors and styles and all that stuff. Hit the links down below to debrand your device. Of course, we got to talk about these cameras. Pixel is known for its camera. OnePlus is really trying to make a better camera. They have a partnership with Hasselblad. Does that matter? Let's talk about it. So the Pixel 6 Pro definitely outshines the OnePlus 10 Pro with the camera. Hardware-wise, you'll find a 50 megapixel, 48 megapixel telephoto, and a 12 megapixel ultra-wide setup on Google's flagship. And I think it's the perfect combination when it comes to pictures. Now, Google's image processing is second to none, and that is where you really see the Tensor chip biggest advantage. With the OnePlus, images aren't bad, and the specs are really good with the triple camera setup as well. 48 megapixel wide, 50 megapixel ultra wide, and 8 megapixel telephoto powered by Hasselblad. And you'll notice that pictures can come out looking pretty natural, even with the ultra wide, which is good. But between the ultra wide and the wide, there is some big imbalance when it comes to color profiles. I also think the selfie camera on portraits on OnePlus, they could have gotten it better. It doesn't have the same quality and detail of the Pixel 6 Pro. Hell, even the Pixel 5, I think, has a better camera than the OnePlus 10 Pro. I still find that the Pixel takes the best pictures, period. I'll take a Pixel over an iPhone, over a Samsung, and over anything else, because I think Pixel's images are that much better. Unfortunately, when it comes to video, both of these phones needs help in that department. I think the Pixel does hold a slight upper hand because on the OnePlus, it doesn't look really good at all. I think the audio really struggles on the OnePlus, and also I don't feel comfortable using the OnePlus video mode for anything that's going to be outside of a quick social media video. With the Pixel 6 Pro, I can get away with using it in decent lighting and it should be okay, but with OnePlus, I just don't think so. I think they have a ways to go in the video department. Pixel does too, but I think the Pixel overall is better with video. So first of all, I want to go on the record and say that both of these phones are really good when it comes to battery life, but the OnePlus 10 Pro has a trick up its sleeve that makes it the true battery life champ. So the Pixel 6 Pro is a 5003 milliamp battery, but it only supports 30 watts wired charging and 23 watt wireless charging. And also it doesn't have a charging brick in the box. And it feels like Pixel's charging experience is the bare minimum. On the other hand, the OnePlus 10 Pro charging experience is completely different, and it feels like a flagship with also a 5,000 milliamp battery. You do get a 65 watt wireless charger provided in the box, alongside with a 50 watt wireless charging support too. And this means I don't have to charge my phone overnight. I can leave my phone not being charged at all, and then when I start getting ready in the morning, I can then plug it in. And by the time I'm getting ready in the morning, my phone is back to 100% and I'm ready to start my day. Let's say I'm about to go out at night and I didn't, I've been on my phone a lot and my battery gets a little bit low. I just bump it on the charger for 10, 15 minutes and then I'm up to like around 60% again. Those everyday things that makes the OnePlus 10 Pro a better phone for battery life. Now, when we talk about like using the phone and how fast the battery is drained, I think they're pretty similar, but once again, being able to charge it back up is just a game changer for me. So guys, for me, when we're talking about flagship phones, it depends on how you use the phones and what you use the phones for. If you're a person that wants to use a camera and you're a camera person, then the Pixel 6 Pro is gonna be your best choice. This is the best camera around when it comes to taking still photos. But if you want a more fluid experience and you want something that kind of has that, unique design, kind of has that unique look to it, and also just a solid overall good performing phone that has some gaming features, then of course the OnePlus 10 Pro is going to be a great choice. Now, both phones are going to get tons of software updates, whereas, some phones may not get that many updates, but I do like the customization of a OnePlus phone. I think OnePlus does a great job allowing you to customize these phones to kind of work the way you want. It takes me back to an old ROM back in the day where you can just do whatever you want with the phone and it really feels custom. Whereas a Pixel phone is sort of Google's iPhone, if you will. It's a very stock experience. I guess stock is not the right word for Pixel anymore because only Pixels run Pixel software, but it's a very tight niche, a tied down software experience. But overall, guys, these are your choices between these $899 phones. I want to know which one you would pick. Anyways, guys, Kevin the Tech Ninja, have a wonderful day. Hit subscribe. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.